Can you talk about Trucker for Freedom and why the media do not talk about it? It's worse than they don't talk about it, actually. This will be the rant, people. And then I'm going to do the disclaimers. It's worse than that the media does not talk about it. What they choose to selectively talk about and portray that as though that's the main story. I was on RT earlier today, Russia Today or Russia Television. I forget which it is. And people accuse RT of being state propaganda. People say, RT, you can't trust it. It's Kremlin propaganda. It's Putin propaganda. Be that as it may or may not be the case. Apply the same reasoning to the CBC. State-sponsored propaganda. Because it is nothing less than that of the highest order. And I'll break out, how do I share screen here? I'm going to break this out because it's just mind-boggling. If you did not know what was going on, you wouldn't know what was going on if you relied on the CBC for information. Here, Twitter, boom shakalaka. Let's see here. I believe we're sharing now. So, I can see me with the account. Now, how do I get into, gosh darn, is that fish just the most beautiful thing on the planet? There is what is being referred to as the Freedom Convoy 2022 that is en route from Vancouver to Ottawa. And this is a convoy of truckers who are either against the vaccine mandate that Justin Trudeau just imposed on cross-border trucking or support those who are against the mandate. And for those of you who don't know, it was my appearance on RT to talk about problems with the supply chain that exist that are being exacerbated by this vaccine requirement on cross-border truckers. So truckers want to come from the States into Canada. They have to show proof of vaccination because, trust the science, Justin Trudeau says, the solitary truck drivers who carry the essential goods for 36 million people in Canada, they're the super spreader threat that need to be reined in. They need to be controlled. They need to be vaccinated because those truckers, those unvaccinated truckers, are the ones threatening our supply chain. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, it's where you get the frustrated Viva. But the Minister of Transport the other day said, we need this vaccine mandate on truckers to prevent interruptions to the supply chain. 2 years, these essential workers have been operating without a vaccine mandate for truckers. And we've been doing pretty good. And we made it through the actual hard part of this pandemic. But 2 years later, while England is opening up, eliminating all restrictions, Biden is doing the same thing in the States, Trudeau in Canada. We need to make sure that minority of the truck drivers comply, or get off the road. And there's a convoy of truckers, like a big convoy going from Vancouver to Ottawa. And it will wreak havoc on traffic. It will wreak havoc on Ottawa because they're going to be arriving in the next days. And it's going to wreak havoc with the supply chain. And CBC, fake news CBC says hundreds joined truckers' convoy to protest dangerous conditions on BC highways. To which I responded, state-funded fake news, and some have the audacity of lecturing other countries on government-sponsored propaganda and misinformation. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, RT, people who call RT Kremlin propaganda. Confession through projection, because that is exactly what the CBC is doing. That thing out of here. It's called the Freedom Convoy 2022, and it has nothing to do with road conditions. Now, here's where insidious fake news plays their insidious games. There might have been some people protesting road conditions in Vancouver, but the CBC reports on this as though that is the bulk of the convoy that we've been hearing about, so that people are going to be led to believe that there's just a few hundred truckers in British Columbia and they're just protesting road conditions, not vaccine mandates, and that we are probably going to see some substantial interruption to our supply chain that we've already seen. Despite what the blue checkmark propagandists on Twitter working for the Liberal government are telling you. There was the story that I covered Friday night on the Viva on the Street. I mean, it's amazing. Where you have people, someone who has a blue checkmark tweeting out, look how empty the grocery stores are. This is the third one I've been to this week, and they don't have pumpkins. And it's a picture of like beautiful, plentiful fruit stand. And then you find out that the dude who's tweeting this blue checkmark, his handle, or his description says comms. And I made a joke, it's communist, but it's communications. You just Google his name. He's Justin Trudeau's former, not chief of staff. What do they call them? Someone, get the word in the chat there. The spokesperson for the Trudeau government. Former. Also, he had an ethics violation, if that changes anything. Very small, but you have to dig in to see that these blue check marks saying everything's hunky-dory in Canada are undisclosed. What are they called, guys? I need the word for it. Undisclosed representatives of the government tweeting out propaganda. And another one today, another blue check mark, member of parliament for Nova Scotia somewhere, I think, says the Conservatives are putting out misinformation. That image of the empty shells is a Shutterstock image. The things are just fine where I went. I was like, yeah. Who are you going to believe, blue checkmark liberal member trying to hide from the population the consequences of your corruption? Believe me or believe your own eyes? What's the word I'm looking for? Minister? Oh, anyhow. Okay, let's get some chats here. Tomorrow, Walmart, Renault Bray, Indigo, Costco, etc. is closed to people like me. That's another thing that's going on in Canada. Box stores are not open. And you have to show vaccine passport to go to these stores. Costco, by and large, is a grocery store. It's 2 years in, and you gotta fabricate a new enemy to distract from the incompetence, to fabricate a new crisis, to give the government something to manage. It's over the top, and it's going to be coming to an end sooner than later because people are wising up, and Canada cannot implement this garbage while the UK opens up. Viva, opinions on Public Health Agency of Canada tracking cell phones. I've talked about it multiple times. What's the opinion? It's atrocious. This is health agencies tracked 33 million devices of Canadians during COVID to track movements for our safety. And Blaine, I talked about it also, that the government revealed how the military had been using testing propaganda. They saw the COVID pandemic as an opportunity to test propaganda on Canadians. This is all documented stuff. This is not conspiracy theory. This was in CBC. They report on the stories, then they bury them in the internet so that unless you know that they existed, you'll never see it again. So you have the government. Before the pandemic gets here, Justin Trudeau donating our PPE to China in February 2020, leaving our long-term healthcare facilities ill-equipped to deal with this, exacerbating the deaths of the elderly in the long-term healthcare facilities, relies on the number of deaths to justify the draconian measures that the government is implementing, exploits the crisis to test propaganda via the military, and then spies on us through 33 million devices in Canada to track our movement during the pandemic. And then what does the Minister of Transport, Omar Al-Gabra, and the other members of Parliament, what do they start tweeting? Download the mental wellness app so that the government now, after testing propaganda and spying on you, can also know your deepest, darkest secrets of your mental issues. They will certainly not misuse that. You can trust them. I only came to say I'll catch the replay. Football is on. Go Chiefs. Sir? Sean? This will be here later, but it's going to be more interesting than football. I'll tell you what. Canucklaw.ca, then COVID-19. Okay, let me see this. I don't want to get in trouble. Okay. Squeak von Moosenmeyer. Thank you. Ooh, that looks like a... No, that's a skateboard. I thought that was a telescope on your shoulders. Britt Cormier. Early is on time is on late. Late do not show up. In the USMC, United States Military Corps, if you are not 10 minutes early, you are 15 minutes late. I have a higher standard for time than you Canadian lawyers, so you were late. Well, I can't go early because that's not fair to everybody else. So that is the rant. I mean, we have a government, an unethical, corrupt government. This is not a matter of opinion. There were 2 ethics violations in Justin Trudeau's 6 years in office, multiple examples of corruption. They have no interest going back to discussing their corruption and their lack of ethics. And they have no interest in going back to having their government scrutinized, as was the case pre-2020. So fabricate one crisis after another under the pretext of for your safety. It's for our safety that they need to make sure truckers are vaccinated to not interrupt the supply chain. As if they don't understand at this point that even the vaccinated can still contract COVID and still need to isolate when they're exposed to COVID. So compelling truckers to be vaccinated will do bubkis to prevent any interruption to the supply chain that COVID itself has not and is not already causing. So bull crap, bull corn. Bull plop. A load of crap. It's just nuts. I may want to pull up one more tweet from Jake the Fake Tapper. My God, I dislike that individual on a professional and intellectual honesty basis. Okay, so let's get the disclaimers first of all.